Welcome everyone, I'm back with another video after a bit of a layoff. I've been doing a lot of tournaments, just haven't had time to edit these. And this is the first Sinister Cup I did through the Ghost Stadium Discord. And looking at my first opponent's team, my Poliwrath does well against most of it except for the Gardevoir. So I'm going to lead with it and then have two Ghosts in the back to deal with that Gardevoir. I'm taking a chance that he won't lead with hit. But if he does, I can switch right away and then have the other one as a backup. But it's going to be Dusclops, which is the toughest ghost for Poliwrath to deal with, especially since it is a Hexclops, it looks like. So I have to play the shields right here. I go for the boost right away. I know he's not going to shield it, but just want to get the bubbles doing more damage. And I can take the Shadow Punch since it is definitely a defensive Pokemon. And then I'm going to go for the boosted Ice Punch to get some chunk damage in, and he doesn't shield it. So I'm looking in good shape, and I want to protect my boosted Poliwrath here. So I do shield this next Shadow Punch, and that kind of sets up the bait for another power-up punch here. So he probably doesn't want to lose the lead, so he's going to shield this one, and I get the boost again. Now I'm just going to be invested in the Poliwrath since I'm double boosted, have a little under half health left. I can just wear it down with Bubble and have a charge move ready for whatever comes in next. And I'm just going to hit it with a double boosted Ice Punch no matter what, and that will draw out his last shield and Drifloon. So I need to get another Ice Punch here because I can almost one hit KO it, and it's going to be just short. Oh man, but it's alright. Poliwrath definitely did its job, basically taking out two of his Pokemon and all the shields. Now I'll just come in with my Drifblim to farm it down with Hex, get some energy for whatever is coming in next, and with shields down I can just hit it with Shadow Ball. And Poliwrath is tough last Pokemon to overcome, but with my advantage here, it's not going to be a problem. Without any power up punches beforehand, I can take a super effective Ice Punch, and then I'll get to an Ominous Wind. But we had some lag, he understood he's done so we just called the game there. Especially since I still had Marowak in the back. Now looking into the next match, after Poliwrath did so well, I know he's going to come in with Gardevoir, so I'm going to stick with the same team, but with the Marowak lead at the start. Marowak as part Fire will resist Charm if that's what it's running. And of course my Ghost moves will be super effective against it, and it is Gardevoir with the Shiny Flex. So I'm going to farm up here, and then he switches, and I have a moment of hesitation here that kind of cost me. I decided to go for the Shadow Ball right away, get a shield out before switching to Poliwrath, and that's going to give him enough time for an Ominous Wind right at the start, so I'll use my first shield here, and luckily he doesn't get the boost. I go straight for the Ice Punch, be super effective, and he only has one shield left, so he decides to save it, and now I can just farm it down with Bubble, and I know the Gardevoir is going to be coming back in, so I go for the Ice Punch right away. And Gardevoir is pretty frail, so even this neutral hit is going to do a good chunk of damage. And it looks like he's actually using Confusion Gardevoir to get that extra energy, so he's trying to farm me down, and that gives me a chance to burn his last shield, and then I'll go down. And I know he has a ton of energy stored up and it has Shadow Ball, so I have to use my last shield. But this is where using my Shadow Ball earlier on the Drifblim hurts me because I don't have enough energy to go for double Shadow Ball against his Poliwrath. And one will do a good chunk, but Poliwrath's pretty tanky, so takes that, and then now he's going to knock me out. And another mistake I made here is when I didn't faint, actually, I should have switched right away to not let him farm me down with a little bit of energy, because now he actually beats me to another Ice Punch. And I'm just about at an Ominous Wind, but charge move priority or duration or something lets him get another Ice Punch and come back for the win, despite my advantages at the start. GG Justin. So for the third and decisive battle, I bring in Lugia to deal with that Poliwrath, and I stick with Marowak as the lead, as a pretty safe lead against most of his team. And it ends up being a ghost versus ghost matchup with both of us having Hex and Shadow Ball, so it's going to come down to some shield baiting for me to win. And I know it's going to be Ominous Wind here, but I don't want to take a big chunk, so I shield it. But for some reason it glitches out and my charge move goes off. You can see I didn't tap it, but he knows I didn't have enough energy for a Shadow Ball yet, so he doesn't have to shield that. So complete waste of energy. So now I know I for sure have to bait to win, so I take a chance and go for the Bone Club again, and thankfully he does burn his shield. So now I have some energy close to another Shadow Ball, so I decide to invest in Marowak with both shields, try and win the lead and have switch advantage going forward. So I go for the Shadow Ball, and he decides to block it, even though he only has a little health left, but he does have the Ominous Wind ready, so he'll knock me out to start. And I don't want Lugia taking any hexes here, so I'll finish it off with Poliwrath, get a little bit of energy going, and I figure he's going to have Gardevoir here, so I just go for the Ice Punch right away, and then have the quick switch during the attack animation. I can't really let him farm me down with confusion, so I go to Lugia, even though I know this Shadow Ball is going to hit really hard. But luckily, Lugia is a tank, and then kind of surprisingly, he switches the Poliwrath to try and farm me down, I guess. But I'm able to hit the Sky Attack, and then almost get to another one before he does farm me down. But now my Poliwrath will take his Power Up Punch, I'm assuming. Oh, Ice Punch. It still doesn't do a lot, not very effective, and I get to farm him up and have the Ice Punch ready to go before his Gardevoir can kill me, and that'll be the ball game. Whew, GG. On to the second round, where I noticed right away that my opponent doesn't have a Poliwrath, so I feel pretty good about Steelix against most of his team. Only have to worry about Medicham and maybe a Fire Spin Marowak. So I lead with it, and then I have my Medicham for his two Steel types, and then Marowak for his Medi as well. And he goes with Drifblim, so I know I can win this. Just gotta go for the crunches, and then hopefully shield a Shadow Ball instead of an Ominous Wind, but either way I should be in good shape. And I'm gonna take the first one. Thankfully he doesn't get the Ominous Wind boost. He had Charging Priority there, but my crunch will go through to draw out his first shield. And then I'm actually going to beat him to another crunch, and that makes me think he's going to go for a Shadow Ball. That's why it's taking so long. So I do shield this one, and then I'm in good shape with half my health. Just going to try and farm it down. And then he actually gets one more Ominous Wind off, just with a sliver of HP left, and I'm not going to use my shield on that. So I have almost enough energy for an Earthquake, and I'm luckily able to get it off against his Steelix. I was hoping he'd think it's a crunch and let it go through, but I at least get his second shield out of the way now, and I still have mine. And I'll come in with Medicham, of course, and get the Power Up Punch right away to start chunking away. And that's actually going to draw out a switch from him to his Gardevoir, so I switched my Marowak right away. And with shields down, it's Shadow Ball time. So probably could have got a little more energy first to get ready for his Steelix, but it's not a big deal because I still have a shield left to deal with an Earthquake. And I'll block this first move. And it's actually only Crunch, which is not too bad because he doesn't have Stab. So I can take this next one, and then I'm going to get to a Shadow Ball and take the first battle. And I really didn't even need the Medicham there, so for the next round, I'm going to take out that and go double Ghost again and leave Drifblim in case he sticks with that or goes to his Medicham. And that way I'll just have the Mirror to start, and I have pretty good IVs on mine, and it is the Mirror. So we're both just going to charge up with Hex, and I'm going to try and bait, I guess, with Ominous Wind before going for a Shadow Ball. And then I get lucky and get the boost. And when you lead with Drifblim and get the boost, it's basically game over. It's so unfair. So now I'm just going to chunk away and go for another Shadow Ball because that's all it's going to need to knock him out. And that gets out his second shield. So now I'm in really good shape. So I'm definitely going to protect my boosted Drifblim here. And now that he's out of shields, I'm just going to farm him down, get ready for Shadow Ball and on whatever comes in next. And it's going to be Steelix. So definitely need to take this out before the crunches hit, but I just had such an energy advantage on it before it came in, so I can get to an Ominous Wind before he gets to a crunch even. And then his last Pokemon's Gardevoir, so that's really not fair against my two Ghosts and Steelix. The Ominous Wind boost, that 10% chance, really just flips the matchup. So I go for the Shadow Ball. He could have honestly Bone Club there, but I take that second match and take the round. And I honestly kind of hate the new Silph Arena rule about having to do 3 matches no matter what. I did want to report before about whether it's a 2-0 win or 2-1 win, but making us go for this 3-0 is just kind of not great. But he does make a great prediction and lead with Medicham against my Steelix despite, having such success with Drifblim last match. So he gets the switch advantage, but he was a touch slow on the switch, so I have a ton of energy against his Steelix, and I just go for the Shadow Ball right away to chunk it down. And I'm going to block this first crunch. I know I can take one, but by blocking this, I'm kind of setting up the shield bait. Go for the Ominous Wind to draw out one of his shields. And that's going to get him. I don't think I would have knocked him out. Not sure exactly, but now I'm going to take this crunch. And like I said, Drift Bloom can take one, and I'll get to another Ominous Wind here. And now I am in knockout range, so he does burn his second shield. So not too bad after I had the lead disadvantage to start. And I know he has a bunch of energy here, so I'm just going to come in with Steelix as the safer option. I don't know, I probably shouldn't have shielded that. I fall for the crunch bait, but I'm able to farm it down with his Dragon Tail. Have a bunch of energy for his Medicham coming in, and a Power Punch isn't going to do too much right away. So I go for the Earthquake since he's out of shields here, and it's a great nuke option late in the game. And I'm going to switch right away to Marowak to take all these counters, and that'll draw out his Drift Bloom, but I have enough energy for a Shadow Ball right away, another great move without shields. And then I'm going to have just the Medicham left, and even a Psychic without shields and a boost isn't going to knock me out. So GG, and that's 3-0. Looking at Kermit's team for the next round, I really like Steelix here. And I'm going to have Medicham to protect it against Poliwrath and deal with the two Steel types. And then my Hex Marowak in case his Marowak's a Fire Spin version. I feel like it's a pretty safe lead against most of his team, except Bastiodon, which is what he brings. So I'm just going to get a little bit of energy and then switch to Steelix to wall it. And then he surprisingly stays in, even though I'm double resisting his Smackdowns. And I know Flamethrower is going to come in for super effective hits, so I blocked that. And I'm going to overcharge a little bit before shield baiting with Crunch. And that's actually going to take out his first shield. So now I'm going to go for the Earthquake because I'm charging way faster than he can. And he doesn't want to invest both shields here. So I take out the Bastiodon despite that lead disadvantage. And now I have a little bit of energy even for the Drift Bloom coming in. But he does get charge move priority on me. But it's alright because I know I can take one charge move. And the Crunch will go through. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't block this one either. I guess he wants to save the shield for whatever's in the back. And he tries to farm me down, so I'm able to get one more crunch in. Now he does have to burn that last shield. And then he uses the charge move because I guess he's afraid of dying with wasted energy. But now I can just finish it off with one Hex and basically have the Shadow Ball ready for his last Pokemon, which is Gardevoir, so I can one-shot that and not even need the Medicham. But for the next battle, I'm going to lead with it this time in case he sticks with the Bastiodon against my Marowak from last time. And that's exactly what he does. So I'm off to a great start with these counters chunking away health before he switches. And then I'm a little slow to switch myself and get into Steelix, but he already has a charge move ready. And I can take one like we saw last battle. So I take that first Shadow Ball and go for the Crunch. And that'll draw out his first shield at least. And we just saw this matchup play out in the last battle, so I know I need to block this next one and then do a good chunk of damage with another Crunch. And then depending on if this one goes through or not, I'm going to try and get some energy ready for his Bastiodon or whatever he has third. And I do end up finishing off with one Dragon Tail, so I get a little bit of energy. And it is Bastiodon, so I'm able to get to this Earthquake just before he can get to a Flamethrower. And that'll make him use his last shield. And again, with little health, I'm just going to let Steelix go down, not block this Flamethrower. And especially since I have Power Up Punch ready to go on Medicham right away. But before I can really go to town with counters, he switches to Gardevoir. And I don't know why I didn't switch myself. But it's okay, I get the Psychic, which isn't very effective, before finally switching. And now I'll just farm it down with Hex, since Charm's not going to do enough or charge fast enough against Marowak. And I can just go with the Bone Clubs that are double super effective against Bastiodon, and I'll get the second one and take the match. Although I do have to do the third match to try and go for 3-0 again. And I decided to lead with Steelix because I'm anticipating either the Gardevoir or Ghost against my Medicham lead from last time. And I have two Ghosts behind it. And it is Gardevoir, so I have the switch advantage. But I realized I didn't bring a counter for Poliwrath this time. So I have to go with Drift Bloom as the lesser of two evils between my Ghosts against it. And I block the first Ice Punch. And then I go for the Ominous Wind boost, hopefully, and don't get it. Also, probably should have went Shadow Ball there, but now I have to take an Ice Punch, and then I probably should have went Ominous Wind this time instead of going for the Shadow Ball. Instead, I have to burn my second shield because he had Charge Move priority, and now I'm down 2 shields to none. It's not looking great. He lets the Poliwrath go down before finishing me off with his Drifblim. So he has a little bit of energy advantage, and again, like I said, the 2 shield advantage. So I go Steelix and just gonna try and tank these charge moves and Shadow Ball smartly right away. And I go for the Crunch to burn a shield at least. And then I'm actually gonna lose charge move priority again, but it probably wouldn't have mattered due to my poor team selection. Maybe would have had a chance if he didn't have shields, but now it's basically GG. I'm gonna try and bait, but it doesn't really matter because he's gonna be able to one-shot me with the Shadow Ball. So GG on taking the third battle here. And then my fourth opponent has a team full of stuff I haven't really seen yet, especially that Giraffe Rig. I do like Medicham against it, and then the Propass and the 2 fighters. So I just need to protect it against the Drifblim and Lugia. So I bring Marowak and Steelix to protect it against those 2. And he does leave Drifblim, and we've seen this matchup before. I really need to get the shield bait with Bone Club. So I'm going to block the first Ominous Wind here. And then I'm going to overcharge a little bit to really try and sell that Shadow Ball and hit the Bone Club, which will draw out his first shield. So I'm in good position. Although he does beat me to another Ominous Wind, and I think I'm supposed to take that. Based on the sims, I can survive it, and I should have saved that shield for Medicham later, but I do shield it and then draw out his second shield, so at least we're even in that regard. But now we have the longest lag, and I should have just messaged him about restarting, but since I had landed the bait before, I didn't really want to do that. So I tried to just switch into Steelix to see if that will trigger something, and that wouldn't be a bad matchup. Instead, he gets 1 Hex on me, which is not really fair, but now the switch goes through, and that gives him time to think about the switch he wants to do into Poliwrath, because I gave up switch advantage, do all that. But with shields down, I can hit this Earthquake to really take him down, and he'll get a power-up punch, but that's not too concerning. If it was Dynamic Punch, I'd be in trouble. But I'm able to charge up a bit. Probably could have just farmed him down, but I go for the Crunch here. Didn't want to take the bubble damage. And then he comes in with another fighting type. I did not expect that. So he just faints me down with counter, and I don't want Medicham to be stuck against his Drifblim, so I come with it first here. And then Power Punch is hardly going to do anything here. And then I don't know what I'm doing here. I should have went for the power up punch and then just knock it out eventually with counters. Instead, I'm trying to save energy for the Drifblim in case he switched. And then I switched anticipating another fire punch, or at least trying to just farm it down and have a Shadow Ball ready for Drifblim. Instead, he has the Ominous Wind ready right away. And I panic and immediately tap Psychic instead of farming a little bit of energy, since he had just used up all of his energy. And that way I would have had Power Punch ready for Hitmonchan. Instead, he comes in with Fire Punch right away, and that's GG. Felt like I could have won if not for the lag issue. So I'm going to stick with the same team, just with Steelix in front in case he stays with Drifblim. But he anticipates that and went with Poliwrath, so that's not great. And I didn't want to switch to Medicham since that would just let him switch to Drifblim or Lugia. So I stick with it and take the first power-up punch since I saw that's what he has last time. And I'm going to try and bait with Crunch here. And since he saw how much damage Earthquake can do last time, he does use a shield. So I'm in decent shape here, so I'm going to block this next power-up punch since I'm close to another Earthquake. Maybe could have survived it since it was nerfed right before this cup, but I didn't want to risk the bubble damage taking me out, and I really wanted to land this. And that actually burns the second shield, so now I can let Steelix go down and then come in safely with Medicham. And this time I just go straight for the power-up punch right away, get the boost from the start, and then that actually gets him to switch out, and that lets me switch in Marowak safely. And I have the shield advantage here, so I can block an Ominous Wind. And then with shields down, I can just go for straight Shadow Balls all the way through now. And with Hex, I can just keep charging up and firing away non-stop. That's going to one-shot Drifblim. And then he has Hitmonchan in the back. And I already know it has Fire Punch. I'm not afraid of Power Up Punch. I probably could have even just farmed it a little more, but Shadow Ball is just such a good move. I know it's going to be close to one-shotting it, and almost does. Now I can just get some more energy. Like I said, neither of his charge moves will do anything against Marowak. So now I can get to the Bone Club for his Poliwrath that had such low health anyway, and that's GG. Tied up 1-1. Now, he's gone double fighters both times, so I go with Lugia instead of Madcham this time as a harder counter to them, and I have Marowak as the lead. It's pretty safe, I feel like, and now he has Hitmonchan as a lead, so we just saw this matchup. There's nothing he can do against me, so I don't have to shield anything he uses. And honestly, I probably should have just farmed up some more. Instead, I go for a Shadow Ball, and he times the switch right then. It would have been okay if I landed the Shadow Ball against Poliwrath. Instead, I burn a shield, and I can safely bring in Lugia to counter him. And I'm going to have the switch advantage going forward, and I know I can take a Power Up Punch absolutely no problems, and I double resist it. And I try farming a little bit there before going for the Sky Attack, see if he's going to burn his second shield, and he does. I'm a little worried about a boosted Ice Punch here, and I have both shields left, so I end up falling for his bait. So now, instead of farming a little bit more, I'm just going to go for the Sky Attacker right away and knock him out since he's double boosted right now. And then he surprisingly comes back in with the Hitmonchan eventually. And that's a great matchup for me still. Even with this boost to his Fire Punch, it's not super effective or anything. And I can just go for the Sky Attack again. So now I have all three of my Pokemon left with a shield, so I'm going to be able to take out whatever he has left. A little surprised he didn't have Driftblim against my Lugia initially, but it's all good because I have Steelix and a shield, so I can just go straight crunches. I can take a charge move as we've seen in the past, and then it's not going to one-hit KO it with the crunch, but it's going to do enough, and I have the Marowak in the back anyway, so GG. This was a tough round. I had to go to 3 matches, but gonna go into the final undefeated after I hit one more attack. And my opponent in the final is also going to be 4-0, and I think he actually swept most of his matches as well. He has a pretty balanced team here, so I'm just going to stick with the core trio of Marowak, Poliwrath, and Steelix, with Marowak as a mostly safe lead. Don't expect Bastiodon here. And even if it's Poliwrath, I can at least apply some shield pressure since I'm running the Hex version instead of Fire Spin against the Water type. And it is going to be Poliwrath. Not the end of the world since I do resist most of his charge moves, but those bubbles will add up, especially once he gets this Power Up Punch right away. And I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball from the start, just try and sneak it in case he thinks I'm baiting, and maybe set up the bait for later in the match. Kind of surprising he didn't go for another boost right away, so I ended up beating him to another charge move, and I'm just going for the Shadow Balls again, and that burns his second shield, so this opening match isn't too bad so far. And now he'll Power Up Punch and then finish me off with the bubble. Steelix is obviously a bad matchup here, so I go with my own Poliwrath, and before I can get my Power Up Punch off, he switches, so good timing there. But that does let me switch into Steelix safely, and Steelix is so good with the shield advantage. Yeah, he's going to hit me with a super effective Fire Punch, but Dusclops' attack is so low that it doesn't do too much, and I can just go straight for the crunches. And at this point, I think I'm in range to farm it down, although he's going to add a little shield pressure with another punch. But I have 2, so it's no problem. And I get a little greedy by trying to farm it all the way, but he's only able to get to another Shadow Punch instead of a Fire Punch, luckily. And then I'll have a ton of energy for whatever he has left. And Earthquake is just such a nuke that it's going to one-shot his Poliwrath here. And before his last Pokemon can get too much energy, I can get one more Earthquake and finish him off, so take round 1. And I did see that he had Fire Spin on his Marowak, so that kind of scared me off of using Steelix again. And I go with Medicham since he led with Poliwrath last time, or he might go with Bastiodon, but he actually switched to a Marowak lead, which is terrible, so I go straight to my Poliwrath. And go for the boost to my bubbles right away to try and wear it down with the fast moves. And then he's going to go for the Shadow Ball, so luckily I shield this because it's my only counter to his Marowak. And then he switches to Dusclops, and I go for the boosted Ice Punch to start. I know this matchup's going to be really close. I do have the boost and energy advantage, but he has the health advantage. So I can take a Shadow Punch, no problem. And then I go for another Power Up Punch to try and get another boost, maybe bait out a shield, but it doesn't work. And now he goes for another Shadow Punch, so I decide to protect the Poliwrath, and I'm counting on him matching me with the shield since he's so low now, and I bait him with the Power Punch and get the boost so I can hopefully wear it down with bubbles. Now he gets one more Shadow Punch off here, and that's not going to KO me, so I can farm it down and have an Ice Punch ready for whatever comes in next. And he goes back to Poliwrath, but a double boosted Ice Punch will still do a decent amount there. And then he knows I'm going to come in with Medicham and makes an awesome switch right away. I farm up a little bit of energy before going to my Marowak to counter him. A little slow on that switch, so he gets the Shadow Ball right away before I can barely get a Bone Club even. And while that is going to draw out his last shield, not getting the switch in fast enough is costly since I can't get one more Bone Club. And I didn't think I can get to a Psychic, so I go for the boost, hoping I can get him with counter, but double resisting fighting types is too much, so he one-shots me with Shadow Ball. GG, great switch there. And for the final battle of the tournament, I stick with the same team but with Poliwrath as the safer lead against his Marowak, or if he goes back to his Poliwrath, which he does. And I have great IVs on mine for the mirror match, and he switches out, so I go straight to my Ghost to counter his Dusclops. Was a touch slow on the switch, so he gets a charge move off right away, but surprisingly a Fire Punch might have been a little bit of a mistake there from him. And then I try and bait out a shield with my Bone Club, and he does not fall for it. Great call by him, and I'm going to shield his Shadow Punch this time. And now I feel like I need to try and bait again, and I actually do it a little too fast, and he makes another great call and doesn't fall for it. So I can take one Shadow Punch here. I don't want to use up both my shields right away. So I just go for another Bone Club to try and finish him off, or at least draw out one shield and get us even there. And he does before knocking me out. So I'll come in with Poliwrath and just feint him down after having to take another Shadow Punch. But I want to save my energy for whatever comes in next. And gonna go for the Power Up Punch, and it's Poliwrath, so I'm gonna do a quick switch to Medicham because that's the whole point of bringing him here, is to beat his Poliwrath. Although that lets him switch in Marowak, but I got enough energy to go for the Psychic right away and kind of sneak that in there to get a good chunk of damage off his Marowak. And then now he'll just one-shot me with Shadow Ball. I know this is a losing matchup, so I'm just going to save my shield for Poliwrath and then go for the Power Punch again just to get my bubbles boosted and get him out of the way as soon as possible to get into the mirror match. And then we have a little bit of lag before the bubbles kick in and knock him out. I did take some damage myself there too. And now I'm just going to keep going with these Power Punches, get his last shield out of the way there. And he hasn't boosted yet, so I can take this first attack, and it's actually Ice Punch. And now I'm going to go for one more Power-Up Punch and get him in range for one more charge move. And now I have to use my last shield here. It's going to go down to the wire, but I can get one more charge move off and knock him out and take the tournament. Man, that was a close one. GG Dondondrian. It was a great match. And I'm going to be 5-0 to start this season 2 and have the high ranking thanks to the small sample size. Number 222 in the world, apparently. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.